Plants have always been a part of my life. I grew up in a farming community. My grandparents and my ancestors before have farmed this piece of land for, 300 years plus. So I've grown plants my whole life. I've been raised to be a plant person, and everything that I've done in my life has included plants in it since then. When I went to college, my thing was going to be an engineer, and I don't know how plants got involved in that. I didn't think that I could have both. But when I came to New Mexico State University, there was a project to work on a green chili destemmer, or a way to help farmers to mechanize the harvesting process. So then I learned that I can be an engineer and work with plants. While I was working in the industry, I had discovered that at Purdue University, they were using plants to filter air, and they needed an engineer to work on the project. And I thought that would be so cool. So I literally just applied, I submitted an application and I got a call back, and they said, "We would love to have you." And I took the opportunity to go over there, and ultimately I worked on the plant bio wall, where it was just like a bookshelf, with 4 shelves, and each one had lighting inside of it, and I built the lighting system and the irrigation system. It was controlled by a computer, a building automated system that recorded temperature and humidity. It commanded the irrigation to turn on and off. It controlled the lights, and ultimately that's a controlled environment, which I had no idea. I didn't know I was just building what the project needed. And in the end, it turns out that that's something people are really excited about. Eventually, I was starting to think, what am I going to do after I graduate? What kind of job could I get, doing this work? And something interests me in NASA. They're growing plants on the International Space Station. One of the biggest things that we really don't realize is, how do the astronauts eat up there? Where does the food come from? What happens now is we cook the food here, launch it up to the International Space Station about a month before it gets to the astronauts, before they eat it. In that time, vitamins and nutrients degrade. How are they going to survive out there? Ultimately, NASA has decided that growing plants in controlled environments is the way to do that. And what was I doing at Purdue? I just happened to build this controlled environment, that controlled lighting and all that stuff. So I applied for an internship, and I got a call back. They offered me 10 weeks, Jacob, to come down to Kennedy Space Center. You'll work in the plant lab, and we'll work on some space stuff. At the same time, you get to go outside and watch the SpaceX rockets launch and all of that cool stuff. And it turned out that they were my team. They needed a Jacob. They had all kinds of people, but they didn't have an engineer who grew plants. And 10 weeks turned into another 10 weeks. At the end of that 10 weeks, they were like, "Would you like to stay?" I literally became a NASA scientist through my love of growing plants, and it wasn't planned. It wasn't what I intended to do. It's just what called me, or what pulled me in. And I followed that path along the way. I got to work in the NASA lab for 3 years, growing chili plants in pots in controlled environments just like this, 3 years before we turned it into a space flight experiment. We grew them inside of that simulated International Space Station environment, high CO2, LED lighting. In the end, we were able to grow them in a way where they adapted to the environment. And I think the picture is showing them right there behind me growing. That is the advanced plant habitat right there. And they grew well within the tops of the lights. They adapted to the environment that they had, and then they grew peppers. And they had Space Taco Tuesday on the International Space Station. And I was like, yeah, green chili in space. We did it. I had the dream job, NASA scientist in the NASA plant lab. I had the keys to all the doors. We did 17 space biology experiments. All of them were other people's experiments, and I got pulled in to build them and create them and stuff. But I want to do my own research. I want to do my own thing, and I feel like the way to doing that is to getting my PhD. I want to help agriculture and help us become more sustainable, build technologies that'll make us, be able to survive, especially as things change in the future, My next dream, the whole thing, is education and sharing what I do with students so they can do these things too. Agriculture farming, it has completely skipped a generation in northern New Mexico where I'm at, but we're bringing it back. This next generation, they're gonna be farmers and they're gonna come take over, you know, and that's like the ultimate dream, is to help promote that, encourage students, and then hopefully along the way I get to do some of my research too.